Good afternoon and welcome to your news on TV1. The News First team, I'm Shehan Ralatunga. Now first, let's take a look at your headlines.
Central Hill battered by heavy rains. Woman died after earth mound collapses. European Union remains committed to support Sri Lanka overcome crisis. But freedom of expression and assembly is essential. GSP Plus to be assessed soon, says European Commission President. COPE and COPA members named. Opposition not pleased with chairman posts. Will the advanced level examination be postponed?
යම් වෙනස්කමක් කරන්න පුළුවන් නම් කාලසටහන කරන්නයි කියන කාරණය අනිත් සිසුන්ටත් අසාධාරණයක් නොවන විදිහ.
133 people killed across Iran as protests turn violent.
Now, Sri Lanka's central hills continue to experience heavy showers throughout the day. A woman who died after a mound of earth collapsed on a house in Mountain Vernon Estate in Dimulapatana during heavy rains.
A mound of earth had collapsed onto a kitchen, a result of heavy showers in Mountain Vernon Estate, Dimulapatana. The mound of earth had fallen atop a woman and great efforts were made to pull her out. The deceased was a 46-year-old woman. The body of the woman is currently at the Kotagala hospital. A tree had fallen onto a house in Gaminipura, Hatton as a result of strong winds and heavy rains in the Central Hills. A husband and wife duo were injured following the incident and the house sustained serious damage. Due to the heavy rains, the sluice gates of several reservoirs have been opened. According to our correspondent, 2 sluice gates of the Upper Kotmale Reservoir have been opened as of now. As a result, the Nuwara District Disaster Management Unit urged area residents to remain vigilant. Two sluice gates of the Polgollo Mahavali Dam have been opened as a result of heavy showers in Kandy and nearby areas. This releases about 4,000 cubic feet of water per second into the Victoria Reservoir below the dam. The Polgollo Mahavali Dam Engineering Office reiterated that residents living beneath the dam must be vigilant when entering the Mahavali River given the unfavourable weather condition. Meanwhile, the Department of Meteorology says that heavy rains exceeding 100 millimeters are expected in Sabaragamuwa province and in some places in Kandy and Nuwara districts. Showers may occur in the northern and northwestern provinces. The Met Department stated that in the Uva province and Ampara district, showers or thunder showers may occur at a few places in the evening or at night. Occasionally, gusty winds of about 50 kilometers per hour are possible in the western slopes of the Central Hills, northern, north central and southern provinces, as well as Trincomalee and Putlam districts.
Sri Lanka Speaker Mahinda Wardana on Monday announced that 27 members each have been appointed to the Committee on Public Enterprise and Committee on Public Accounts. Speaking in Parliament, the Chief Opposition Whip Lakshman Kiriyalla pointed out that the opposition must chair the said committees.
I will not speak about this afterwards. I am tired of speaking about this in Parliament. On the 7th of June, the Parliament Business Committee agreed to allow the opposition to chair the COPE and COPA. Not you, the committee. Not only that, you said to make the standing orders to allow that. On the 12th of August, I asked you again in Parliament. You said you will do it. But it has not happened until now. If you recall, 2 years ago, I asked you for the chairmanship of the Committee on Public Finance to be given to the opposition. That was 2 years ago. You suspended the standing orders and gave them to the government. 2 years ago, we said that the country is heading towards bankruptcy. Today, the people of the country are suffering. Had we gone to the IMF earlier, we would have had the relief today. You can make a decision. I don't want to speak about this further.
Now, the former chairman of COPE, Professor Charita Herath, was not included in the list of COPE members announced by the Speaker on Monday. Professor Charita Herath is among the several ruling faction MPs who decide to remain independent and sit with the opposition in Parliament. Professor Charita Herath tweeted that after a delay of 2 months, the COPE members list is out, and as predicted, his name isn't in the list. He said that thieves, deal makers who are in favor of a corrupted system won for the day, and the people behind the economic crimes wanted him out of the way. Professor Charita Herath said that the President and Prime Minister should be ashamed of what had happened. Now, in the meantime, Minister of Education Dr. Susil Premajayantha informed the Parliament today that he will inform the Examinations Department to consider the requests being made to delay the advanced level examination.
Many students who are sitting for the advanced level examinations told us over the phone that they are inconvenienced right now. They say they only have a period of 98 days to prepare for the 2022 advanced level examinations. But previously, students had 200 or more days to prepare. The students are sitting for the exams this year, requesting 2 more months at least to prepare for the examination. It is the students who sit for the exam on the day decided by the examination department. There have never been such requests. Their request is fair. But previously, the second and third year students got less than 3 months. We must decide whether or not to close down 10,000 schools for a month. The school timetables and the exam schedule will clash. Advanced level is a decisive exam in a student's life. After discussing with the examination department, at least make an exception this time around. The department is also at fault for taking 7 months to release the results. While correcting that mistake, we request you to fulfill this request of the students. I will direct this to the Department of Examinations. We will try our very best to change the schedules while keeping matters fair to other students as well. Meanwhile, Minister of Education Susil Premajayantha announced in Parliament that starting from next year, the first grade students will be taught the English language practically. As a part of the proposed changes in the education system, English will be taught practically from grade 1. There is a point where our leaders went wrong. President Gotabaya Rajapaksa did a program called Gama Samaga Pilisandarak. During the program, an English teacher spoke to the president. The president told the teacher to speak in English. If that is the state of the English teachers in government schools, how can they develop the language skills of the students? Implement a program that will teach English to the students in rural areas in government schools.
Now in other news, Ursula von der Leyen, the President of the European Commission, has assured its support to the government of Sri Lanka for the efforts to overcome the crisis successfully.
President of the European Commission noted that at a time of unprecedented challenges faced by the people of Sri Lanka, the European Union remains committed to support Sri Lanka's efforts to overcome the crisis successfully, including the necessary reforms that will bring the country back on path of inclusive prosperity and lasting national reconciliation. She further stated that in this process, freedom of expression and assembly, dialogue among all stakeholders, as well as respect for the rule of law and fundamental rights will remain essential. She also made a reference to the assessment by the European Union on the progress made by Sri Lanka on GSP Plus commitments. Accordingly, the European Union will assess the progress made on Sri Lanka's GSP Plus commitments very soon. The report is scheduled to be released towards the latter part of this year or early 2023. She also commended the success in the efforts to introduce and steer policies that will ensure the short and long-term interests of all Sri Lankans and address the devastating efforts of the unprecedented economic downturn, as well as the negotiations with international financial institutions and creditors. President of the European Commission expressed her interest to strengthen the ties and cooperation based on commitments to shared values and common interests.
Sri Lankans, especially the rural communities, are facing serious issues in making ends meet. This is the story of a village in Mahavilachya, Anuradhapura.
Many families in the Mahavilachya village have received rice and sambal as their daily meal, as they cannot afford anything else. In addition to that, they cannot be certain about their next meal. Children from this village have been going to school in hunger over the past few days, mainly because their parents cannot afford to buy them meals. Many villagers do not have a fixed source of income and manage to keep their families alive through whatever means necessary, especially by providing labor on a daily basis. Yet, the money they earn is not enough to make ends meet.
The Government Teachers Association is requesting the government to implement a school-level program to meet the nutrition needs of the country's school children. There was no provision of funds to uplift the nutrition standards of the school children. We're aware that some MPs and ministers are using millions for their needs. However, the government has failed to provide the school children in the country. The Ministry of Education has instructed the zonal education officers to implement school-level programs to uplift the nutrition levels of the children. But the question is, do schools have the funds to implement such programs? The minister must elaborate on the programs. Former JVP parliamentarian Sunil Hanunnetti, speaking to a party activist in Matara, commented on the present state of affairs. The people are in crisis and have no way to survive. 4 out of 10 households are going hungry. According to the World Food Programme, 20% of the population are not having dinner. Enough is enough. We need an election. Now, a protest took place opposite the Fort Railway Station on Monday morning, demanding housing rights of the estate community. The protest organized to secure the right to housing of the estate community. Several staff from the Social Development Institution joined this protest. The remains of the late Darshan Dharmaraj, one of Sri Lanka's most popular actors, is placed at a private funeral parlour in Colombo for the public to pay their last respects.
A large number of people were seen paying their respects to the late Darshan Dharmaraj. The public will be given the opportunity to pay their respect in Colombo until 3 p.m. Darshan Dharmaraj passed away at the age of 41 due to a cardiac arrest on Sunday morning. His remains will be removed from his Rakwana residence on Monday evening.
Now, the 2 men who were arrested for looting a tavern in Dangovita and engaging in a shootout with police were remanded to the 14th of October 2022.
The 2 suspects were subject to an inspection by the magistrate while they were being treated at the Ragama hospital. The magistrate had ordered the suspects to be remanded until the 14th and be produced to the Attanagala Magistrates Court. On Sunday morning, a shootout took place between the police and a gang of thieves who were on the process of looting a tavern in Dannovita located along the Colombo-Kandy main road. A woman who was inside a bus travelling from Galembindunuwava to Colombo that was passing the area was caught in the crossfire and lost her life. She was identified as 29-year-old Iresha Shamali from Bentara.
The Colombo Stock Exchange halted trading for the day as the S&P SL20 index dropped by over 5%. Now, in news overseas, Iran Human Rights says 133 people have been killed across Iran to date. Iran's ultra-conservative president Ebrahim Raisi said on Sunday that a conspiracy by the country's enemies had failed as anti-government protests spill into the 3rd week.
He said in a statement released by the presidency, quote, "At a time when the Islamic Republic was overcoming economic problems to become more active in the region and in the world, the enemies came into play with the intention of isolating the country, but they failed in this conspiracy," end quote. People have taken to the streets since the death of Mahsa Amini on the 16th of September, after she was detained by the morality police for allegedly breaching rules requiring women to wear hijab. Anti-government protests erupted heavily in Iran since September after her death. As just yesterday, the rising tensions had led to Iranian police to clash with students at one of the country's most prestigious universities in Tehran. Reports say a large number of students at an university in Tehran have been trapped in the campus.
Elsewhere, elections in Brazil enter final 4 weeks in a close and intense race to decide the next leader of the country.
Brazil's election is going to a second round in which left-winger Lula da Silva will face far-right incumbent Jair Bolsonaro. With almost all the votes counted, Lula had won 48% against Bolsonaro's 43%, a much closer result than opinion polls had suggested. But Lula fell short of more than 50% of valid votes needed to avoid a runoff. Voters now have 4 weeks to decide which of the two should lead Brazil.
Burkina Faso's military leader, who was ousted in a coup on Friday, has formally agreed to step down.
Religious and community leaders said the country's new self-declared leader, Captain Ibrahim Traore, had Lieutenant Damiba's resignation and conditions he had set. The announcement followed attacks on French institutions after it was reported that Lieutenant Damiba was sheltering at a French military base. It is the second coup this year. In both cases, the country's dire security situation and failure to deal with an Islamist insurgency were blamed for the takeovers. The African Union has demanded the return of constitutional order by July 2023 at the latest, agreeing with the regional group Economic Community of West African States that the ousting of leader Lieutenant Damiba was unconstitutional.
Now in news from the Formula One circuit, Sergio Perez passed pole sitter Charles Leclerc at the start and resisted race-long pressure from the Ferrari driver to take a hard-earned victory at the Singapore Grand Prix.
Was summoned to the stewards and handed a reprimand and a 5-second time penalty for safety car infringements, but with a 7.5-second gap to Leclerc, kept his win. With Leclerc crossing the line second, third place went to Carlos Sainz in the other Ferrari.
What a drive! This is how we do it, man. We shut our mouth.
Championship leader Max Verstappen finished 7th. The Dutchman rose steadily through the order after a poor start, but was then forced to battle back from the 14th after a late race lockup. After the start was delayed by over an hour due to torrential rain in the build-up to the race, Perez seized the lead as soon as lights went out. The Mexican got better traction off the line and powered past Leclerc as they raced towards the first corner. Perez continued to pull away at the front, and as the 2-hour mark was reached, he completed the final lap with 7.5 seconds in hand. Leclerc was left with second place ahead of Sainz, while Norris claimed a solid fourth place ahead of McLaren's teammate Daniel Ricciardo. Lance Stroll was 6th for the Aston Martin, and Verstappen passed the second Aston of Sebastian Vettel on the final lap to claim 7th. Behind Vettel, Hamilton finished 9th, and the final point and offer went to Pierre Gasly.
And that wraps up the news for now. For the Newsfirst team, I'm Shehan Ranapunda. Thank you for watching and have yourself a great day.